ready. I am ready for every good thing. My positive expectations and can-do attitude signal my readiness to live a full and abundant life. I give no energy to thoughts of lack, illness, and conflict. Instead, I fill my consciousness with affirmations of peace, health, and plenty. With deep faith and confidence, I am ready. I believe I am deserving of all good things. I am ready for success. I am ready for prosperity. I am ready for love and happiness. I am grateful for the faith that helps me believe. I'm grateful for the strength that keeps me going. And grateful for the imagination that helps me dream. Mostly, I am grateful that with God, I am ready to move forward into my best, most brilliant life. As shoes for your feet, put on whatever will make you ready to proclaim the gospel of peace. Ephesians 6:15. Hello, this is Darren Littlejohn. Welcome to the 12-Step Buddhist Podcast, episode 88, Grace, How to Accept the Blessings in Recovery. How do we? And components of a practice session, part 2. Well, what is grace? We can discuss, in a traditional sense, the meaning of grace. How do we get out of the way? And truly let the blessings fall upon us. How does the notion of grace integrate with our practice in recovery? And continuing, as I mentioned, with our discussion of the components. That's me being way organized. I normally don't follow kind of a guideline for myself that way. But here we are today, and I believe I don't know, I feel like I understand something about grace in a way that I haven't before. And it is in regards to my Dharma practice, and I am in recovery from addiction. And I haven't had a drink of alcohol in 25 and a half years. I haven't had addictive relationships with any substances, except the things like, the ones, are sugar, caffeine, etc. kind of stuff, exercise, this sort of thing. Not to discount any of the multifaceted aspects of addiction, which you know already if you follow my work. But, I am one of these, and I have an ACE score of, 8, 9. If it's over 4, you're fucked. So, does it matter? At that point, the chances are less than nil, for guys like me. And if you're like me, and if you're, always felt like the last in line, if you feel like an alien among aliens, an outlier in the group that is already an outlier, right? Like me in AA, 22 years old, my mindset and orientation already different from Alcoholics Anonymous. Of course, I had no other frame of reference other than, the church, which did really nothing, no effect on me whatsoever. Nothing against the church, didn't have an effect on me. However, there are some blessings there are some prayers that were made for me. And I have gone back to these people. And may you be blessed, because this was a neighbor lady down the street, and I was a really struggling kid, and I was really in trouble. And you know what? There wasn't really anyone around to be a mentor. There were only people around to beat me, punch me in the face, cut my hair off, steal my stuff, take away my, my trying to make money, selling dope on the street, as an idiot in suburbia, as a non-criminal oriented guy, and just having it always ripped away, always, every time. Whether it was the police catching me when I was, maybe 16, maybe 9th grade. The last grade I completed was 7th grade, but, there were a lot of these anxieties around acquiring and getting anything and allowing anything because, this is what happens. We get traumatized, and it's hard to accept good things. Do you relate? Does anyone in recovery out there relate with what I just said? So to me, grace is something that we do get out of the way. But how do we do that? What does it mean? It's really kind of abstract, isn't it? And in our meditation, if you've been following, our work here together, as we do on the podcast, if you've been following, you kind of understand where I'm coming from with it. This is a different concept. This is lineage driven. This is systems and maybe delivered in a cup called a tradition. Could be a the gold could be made into a Buddha statue or I'd heard recently an old quote, I'll say it, a Buddha statue or a piss pot. So the idea here is, what is grace? How do we obtain it? Well, we can't. How do we get out of the way? Well, we have to understand how to get still. I want to give you components of a practice so that you can help your mind get still. But you can't get addicted to stillness. This is the thing. I mean, it's a hard one understanding for me. But this is a lineage-based practice with systems of teachings. I'm not coming up with ideas necessarily, except that I'm translating this to my own practice and I'm sharing it with you, as I've always done in all my books. I get emails from people who've gone to prison, who read my books, and they come back years later as counselors. And this has been happening for a really long time. Not on the scale of some of the other things, but this is a little bit more of a niche. My focus and my view and my work here is a little bit more niche for you, but that's only really in style, because the delivery, like the product, right, the result, where we're going. I mean, look, I'm telling you straight from day one, the first moment, Buddha is where we're going. However, we're already in our Buddha seat. We got to know that.
This is a reminder. Take my meds. This is a reminder. Take my meds.
But see, I don't have to take them because I already took them, because I've been training myself. And this is part of practice. Understanding that, it's a wild monkey mind in a way, and there's arguments about whether or not that's a positive way to look at it, but, there's a way to train ourselves to tame the passions. Let's say it that way. Let's say tame or live with, or cope with, or be in the presence of thoughts, the presence of passions, the presence of perhaps overwhelming experiences, such as we do have in high ACEs. What is Darren talking about? ACEs. Well, go to the website. I've got it right there, podcast.compassionaterecovery.us. And it's about us. Okay, it's the bodhisattva path. You can take your ACE score there. Listen, you guys, I'm working on some just rockin', mind-blowing shit right now, and I can't get into it right now, but I got to let you know, there's a lot of really cool things coming forth. I mean, you're really going to get something from me. I'm giving you stuff. I'm getting it out. I'm getting it out there. I'm working. The Compassionate Recovery Guide Series Book 2 is well underway. It's going to be a smaller doses, and I'm also going to be breaking up compassionate recovery into smaller parts and offering it in different ways. But I first have to finish this Book 2 in the series. So Grace, think about it like this. So if you follow Igor Birkin, who I've linked you to on the website, and he's been on some podcasts, and you can find him and follow a lineage directed system that is not horse shit. Okay, and it's also not for anyone's ego. We have what's called Samaya, and Samaya is a commitment. And I don't know, honestly, I know the vows. I've obviously written a book about vows. I'm totally repurposing that title as soon as I get a moment, after 3 more books or somehow. But at any rate, we have our vows and commitments on the Sutra Tantra and higher, the highest levels. Our Samaya is not to be in our ego. And for us, who are on the path of razor blade edge of the diamond, the Diamond Sutra, these edges, if we try to balance and go tiptoe up to the temple and we bring our ego bullshit with us, we get slashed right up. Chop it up, people. You're going to get shredded. I mean, I don't know. They talk about dropping into hell realms. If you bring your bullshit to the gate of the temple, I've found that, you just might get dysentery right there on the spot. I don't know. It just depends on your karma. But the grace deal has to do with, look, check it out. This is an Igor. I'm trying to go back to my Igor thought here, is that this is something I got from a series I took with him recently. It's very interesting. It's something like we talk about in AA. We don't ask too much how the power switch goes on. We just flip the switch, people. And it's the same. It's like, we open our eyes and see. We open our eyes and see. We're present for a moment. We listen, we hear. It's not something that we can really make happen. It just is happening. Hearing is happening unless we're deaf. Hearing is happening. Sensation is happening. Memories are happening. Are they really happening? Well, they're happening. They're not actually happening, but our body doesn't know that. If we're traumatized and we're flooded with either visual memories or body sensations or tics or illnesses or manifestations or dysfunctions or other addictions, processes, etc. People are sending out newsletters talking about, we're open to LGBTQ. What do we think we've been doing? We've been doing this from the beginning with compassionate recovery, because it's just not a thing in AA. It's really not a thing. It can be, it's growing, things are, but I really want people to have an openness and an understanding of recovery. So rethink recovery, no box. And you start with compassionate recovery and read the guide series as we go. And how do we position ourselves to be in grace? We put ourselves in a position to be hurt. So instead we put ourselves in position to allow grace to fall. And it's either going to happen or it's not. But it's not going to happen because you're demanding it to happen. Okay, so the door opens from the inside. You got to step back and let the door open. And our stepping back is an action. And we understand in a system, in a lineage-driven teaching, that there are methods and instructions that are, documented by yogis and their staff. Just think about it. Like, you're an AI bot and you've got a team of bots that are writing applications and software code for you. The yogi is sitting there in a state of transmission, and his monks are recording, her monks are recording, her nuns are recording. And these are the things that come and pass down through Dharma teachings, pass down through dreams. This kind of samaya can't be for ego, because if it is, you burn yourself. And it's not, it's really you're burning yourself. It's really self-robbery, like Chuck C. used to say, if you've never read A New Pair of Glasses. Chip away. The statue's already there. Buddha's already there. You're already Buddha. 1991. Suzuki Roshi. Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. Hey, you're Buddha. Sit. You're sitting Buddha. This is already Buddha. That was a transmission. The Zen lineage has Dharma transmission. It's a little bit kind of unique between Sutra. It's Mahayana, but it's unique in some of it in the non-dual aspect. But what is the commitment? I'm not trying to sell you, too much stuff here, guys. I'm not a real good salesman. I'm not a marketing, mind, not a money guy. My only desire is to share with you my journey and have you validate my existence by telling me that you have benefited from that. Of the thousands of emails and people over the years, it hasn't changed my self-esteem really. I still like to hear it. I want to know I'm helping you. I want to know I'm reaching you. Go to the website, check out the little surveys, check out the ACE score and things like that. podcast.compassionaterecovery.us. Sometimes sitting there in an AA meeting and you read the big book, Bill's story for the 400th time, and boom, a light hits you. It happens like that. And it's grace. How do we put ourselves? It's the feng shui. We put ourselves in a position by doing the prayers, doing the 12 steps, doing the vows, doing the practices, and the components of a practice session, starting with refuge and bodhicitta, going into our main practice and dedicating. We can fill in those components with many things. But because of practice, grace happens. Because prayer changes things. Because prayer works. Because faith without works is dead. Because faith is required to turn on the light switch. My teacher looks like a Buddha. He did some stuff. He's got some instructions. I'm going to follow those instructions because I feel like the students around him have really produced results of this. And they're very balanced, very regulated people. They're not thrown off. They're not sucked into their own drama or anybody else's drama. These are the fruits of a good practitioner. These are the manifestations of a good practice. And it is not a practice based on the ego. So what do we do to get in grace? We don't push through the door. We approach our practice with humility. And look, I've been thinking I've been humble for a really long time, and there's a lot of layers to the ego, you guys. And when the suffering gets deep, the Dharma practitioner has got to keep practicing to the end, everybody, to the end. So let me tell you about some grace. And let me tell you about my reaction and, what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. In that, didn't like my condition, didn't like my situation. So didn't like my situation, and I really don't call on the highest, effort of prayer unless I'm really as desperate as the dying can be, as we say in the sixth step in 12 and 12 in AA. As desperate as the dying can be, and you really, got to have that humility, and that grace can happen. When I've had that humility, that grace has happened. But I got to have that humility, and then I don't really know that I'm as humble as I think I am, so it's good to have people around me, the support community, to reflect back to me. But it's not to only reflect back the negative bullshit, you guys. It's to reflect back the power of the spiritual being that you are. And this is the practice of a bodhisattva. As everything we do here on the 12-Step Buddhist podcast and in my books, the practice of a bodhisattva puts us in grace. What's the difference between a grace of a Jesus and a grace of a Buddha? Well, the only difference really is in the teaching and the travel guide, the instructions. Except the Prince of Peace is the palace within, the mandala of a Guru Avalokiteshvara. Something like this, the Bodhisattva of Compassion, Om Mani Padme Hum. My Vajra master, Lama Zopa Rinpoche. I don't want to try to say his, I think it's Lama Kyabje Zopa Rinpoche, but I don't want to say it wrong. I just refer to him as Lama Zopa. Passed yesterday, or was the day before maybe, but just very recently. And when a great bodhisattva passes, and you're connected, and you've taken samaya, you've taken initiation, commitment, practice, long retreats, long sessions, lots of years of teachings and practice. And you're connected forever in every incarnation, ever until you achieve the full Buddha state in full manifestation without ever going back. That's how your connection is with the Vajra Master. So when a Vajra Master dies, look, this isn't the same as what you heard from your Thai forest monk people, from your Jack, cornfields who went to the Thai forest monk people. I'm not saying they're not cool and they don't have a lot to offer. I'm telling you that this is lineage driven, and it's a different lineage. And it's a lineage which picks up where a lot of things left off a long time ago before that, which you don't hear about. It's like, it's not that it's fake news, it's just that please get the comprehensive picture. Read my work. Go to the people I direct you to learn more. There's a very wide array of things available. For example, our very moment of our very suffering, of our very existence. To resist it is futile. To resist it is to apply the law of inverse effect and make it worse. What we resist persists. So grace happens opposite of that. And here's the grace. I didn't like my condition too much for a long time, and it got to me. Like one of those Russian weightlifters in the Olympics, how they've got their 847-pound dumbbells, and they're about to do the, thrust, push it up overhead. What's happening with that is possibly sometimes the mind over matter, and the body can't take it, and they snap a joint. It's happened. Just break a leg, something, And, my mind is like that, too. And I didn't want to have, a psychotic break. I didn't really want to lose touch with reality, as I've seen people do. So when we're trying to get in the state of grace, we do the steps, we do the practice, we associate with the people who are in the right mindset, we understand where we're going, we understand our path, and somehow things happen, like the light goes on, and you don't have to try to see because the light is on. You opened your eyes, yes, we did a feng shui, we put ourselves in a position to be blessed. Okay? So instead of putting ourselves in a position to be hurt, write this down. We put ourselves in a position to be blessed. Okay? So we just do it with the practice and our good intention, our heart. We do it with our heart. We do it with our humility. And the blessings, so I have 3 to share with you, but let me go back to the stack of blessings. And so I did some prayers, and I called out for help in the way that I do in the Vajrayana systems, in the Anu Yoga system, and in the Dzogchen system. And applying all this effort, I don't know. I just keep, you have to, if you're drowning, you have to swim like it all depends on you, and pray like it all depends on God, or practice like it all depends on you really trust your lineage and your lineage master and your Vajra master. You got to know that when you say the mantra, it's the emanation of the deity, the wisdom deity. And the wisdom deity has no separation from our own state. And these are higher teachings, but I don't really like to just share with you where I'm at, what I'm doing, cut to the chase. But how do I enter into the state of grace? Well, I don't know. Somehow it happens. I just flip the switch, do the practice, say the words, try to feel it. Try to feel it with intention, with feeling in your body. And look, when you've got this intensity of traumatic experience, it is an opportunity to practice. It is not easy. It is not easy. I'm telling you. I just locked down. I just locked up mentally, completely folded. I just almost completely. I reached out, but it's been some time since I've had a psychotherapist available. And I'm used to having one, and I understand now that, like my medication, a clinical psychotherapist with a PhD is required. For me to run things by, to just check my thoughts, to just have someone level and intelligent to tell me what I'm not seeing. And so I found a lady. It was a blessing and a miracle because there's no one available anywhere, and I've given up. But I don't know how. It just somehow, I flipped the switch and pressed the digits on the phone and asked for some help, and I got a PhD clinical psychologist on the phone, and she did something. She let me understand that when my amygdala was tripping and just going off, and I wrote about all this in Compassionate Recovery so that you can understand what happens in addiction, what happens in trauma, what happens in training our minds and our hearts and our souls. But it's very hard to flip the switch by yourself sometimes. That's why you need support. This is my truth. This is what we say in recovery. This is what we say in psychotherapy, etc. We keep on going with it, right? But hey, let's surround ourselves with like-minded, good, positive souls. Not people that are toxic to us. That's part of the routine, part of the program, part of what you already know that, but it does need to be said. So I got this lady. She doesn't take any patients, and she didn't have any openings, and somehow there was an opening, and within a few minutes I called and I got that. And then the other blessing was that she's a true healer, and she knew how to just precisely pinpoint the moment when I was in the midst of experiencing the sort of the diminishment of executive function. When you lose executive function, and this happens, if you just go run really hard, do jumping jacks for 5 minutes, and you're going to lose. Not going to necessarily not be able to think, but the blood in the brain leaves that area, and your awareness becomes on some more root functions of motor movement, right? So when you're in trauma, we really get cut off from a lot of our executive function, depending on if we dissociate, the level of trauma, lots of factors. The principle is, in the trauma, we disconnect. Our executive function disconnects, and we're really powerless over it. And I couldn't think my way out of this, so I got someone, and right as I was describing the sort of the torment, the problem that I was experiencing, I realized a bunch of things. And one was that what she said, hey, how true is it what you're experiencing? And we had to go into the reality moment. And I'm working with parts of self, so I understand that there's a pretty good manager in me, pretty good Dharma coach within me, a sensible one. Well, I'm talking to you right now. This is the part of me that does this. But, I'm learning about the multiplicity and all these different kinds of things. I've been working on this for many years, aspects of self. Working in this personally within myself really opened up some things which were memories and experiences of a traumatic drug overdose experience when I was, I think, 16, maybe 17, I think 16. PCP, phencyclidine angel dust. It was the craze in Silicon Valley of the day in the mid-70s there. And, a little bombshell in short shorts, jean shorts, Blondie. And she ought to have been in class, but she was on the Harley going over the hill to Santa Cruz smoking crystal and then passing it on to me for fun. And it really screwed my brain up for the rest of my life. And I've been, among other things, been struggling with these sorts of things, and it becomes too much at times. So this is why people break down. We have about 5 major life factors that we can have as a major stressor, whether it's positive or negative. You get married, you get divorced, you lose a job, you start a job, etc. And when we have all 5 at one time, if you listen to Jordan Peterson, and he's clinical, 25 years in practice at the time he said this, most people cannot come back up out of that, but I do. And so far, so good. I got blessings. You see, I didn't do this. The lady down the street blessed me with her prayers, among other people along the way. Somehow I'm surrounded by just angels holding me up and guiding me along the way and keeping me from really shredding myself in the meat grinder of the world, the earth, the samsara that we're in, our own egos, our own attachments. So I had this kind of break, and the lady was kind enough to help me touch the center of myself and say, hey, that's a part of me that's really, really terrified, and a part of me that's really frozen in time. And just by acknowledging that part of me and holding it in compassion in that moment, it frees itself and liberates itself. And then I do meditation practice and allow it to evaporate into space and just see it as light and have an inhale. It's all empty exhale. The moment is fresh. The moment is new. We're not holding on. We're not pushing away. We're not addicted. We're not addicted. We're not trying anything. And grace happens. Somehow it falls in our lap. So blessings, came that are allowing me to, be in a better situation and feel better and do better. And the difficulty for someone in recovery is that the only thing we used to say, worse for an alcoholic than bad luck, is good luck. And how do we accept the blessings? Well, somehow, you guys, because my teacher, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, one time, in the wee hours of a teaching, said, as he was in a state of Mahamudra, no doubt, as a bodhisattva practicing on the path, reaping merit and sowing seeds in our mind streams, he said, and the blessings fall like rain. Amma, the hugging saint, after she took me to her bosom and gave me heart blessings and offerings and whispered in my ear secret words, secret blessings, said in the meditation, and the lotus blossoms fall. Blessings fall as lotus blossoms on everyone. And my Dzogchen master, Shogol Namkha Norbu, said, the blessings fall like snow, and I hope he doesn't mind me passing this part on, and melt into us. So the trick for me is to let the blessings happen somehow, to accept things as grace and know it and not try to sabotage, not try to get in the way, just continue stepping on the path, knowing that this is the path and these are the practices of a bodhisattva in recovery. We will pick up next week with another episode. Until then, peace out and namaste.